How do our childhood roles impact us in the current day when we are full adults and we go home for the holidays? So, we may have left our family of origin, done all sorts of personal growth, work, become much more well rounded beings, not just focused in one particular role. We might feel really good about ourselves, this work we've done, and yet we go home for the holidays. We reach out and turn that doorknob, and whoosh, it's like a time machine because we all of a sudden feel like we are back responding the way we would have responded when we were, you pick, 10 years old, 12, 15, 18, right? It is sort of bizarre how that happens. And we feel like, wow, how could I be acting this way? So I'll give you a quick rundown of how these family roles typically present during family events, holidays, okay? So the hero child or the caretaker child. You might be the one cooking all the food, cleaning up all the food, maybe even having arranged the events, maybe even arranging how other family members might get there. You probably make sure you're buying gifts for everybody. You might even buy gifts for that relative who never buys gifts for other people so that that person has gifts to give others. You might just be doing everything for everybody because that's always been your role within your family system. And what does it lead to? It leads to exhaustion, irritability, resentment, stress, and even loneliness because you feel like it's all on your shoulders and nobody really seems to appreciate it or understand the effort you've put in. And that resentment that you feel is toxic for you. Resentment is like taking a poison but hoping it hurts the other person, right? So it's a toxic emotion to feel. And resentment often tells us we are doing too much. So a suggestion, if that was your role, is to just pull back a little, let things not be perfect, let things slide. You might create a vacuum if you're letting things slide, but that's okay. Okay, so let's move on to the scapegoat. So you grew up being blamed for everything and it still seems to be happening. And maybe you even still react in the same way where you might sabotage things, get angry. You probably dread going to the holidays because you just know you're going to be criticized by everybody about everything. Anything that goes wrong will be blamed on you. You'll probably be resented by the hero child I just spoke about. And even if you've stepped out of this role in other areas of your life, you still might act out or do something that justifies some of their blame or criticism. So that's a miserable place to be. And this can also be a really lonely place to be. You feel hurt. Nobody seems to understand that or acknowledge it. And you probably resent the family member who's doing everything or the family members who haven't recognized what you have done, okay? And then there's the lost child. Lost children often skip out on holiday events because it's likely they live across the world, right? They might pick a place very far away. In general, lost children hate the conflict, can't stand the arguing, don't want to be part of it, don't assert their own needs because that would create conflict. So if they do go, they often feel ignored, unimportant, kind of like an afterthought. And then if you're the mascot, you are expected to tell jokes, keep everybody cheerful. Doesn't matter how you're really feeling inside, you need to make those jokes. You need to cheer everybody up. You need to provide some entertainment and distraction from any real problems that are happening. And that is also exhausting. And you probably end up feeling lonely because nobody knows what's really going on with you. And maybe even resentful that the other family members can't just relax and have a good time. So if you listen to this, you think, wow, all four of those roles, even though they're all very different, they all end up in the same place, feeling resentful, lonely, unappreciated, misunderstood, and there's probably even an element of guilt that each one feels for whatever reason. Guilt they couldn't do it better, guilt they couldn't fix the situation, guilt that they fall into the same role, guilt I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. And one reason we end up there, no matter which role we have, is that we are not roles. We are full human beings who have many sides to us. Being trapped in a role is being required to present only one persona to the world, so your true self doesn't matter. And maybe we're not even shoved into the role anymore. Maybe we just automatically jump into it because that's what we learned for so many years. We all truly want to be loved for who we fully are, right? For our quirks and our strengths and our weaknesses, but who we are as full human beings. So it might be worth challenging yourself to take a little bit of a different approach. Whatever your approach is, try to do it a little bit differently, mainly for yourself, not for others to notice, but to be kind to yourself. Let out a little bit of the who you are that doesn't fit into that role, and maybe approach it more with curiosity than to really expect anything to be different, because family systems are very, very rigid. And you have maybe done a fair amount of work, but not everybody in your family system has, I'm pretty sure. And that family system is going to remain rigid and want you to be in that role. But if you can step back and not care as much, I know that might be hard, but not care as much about the response and do it more as an experiment for yourself. I wish you health and healing.